Like your career goals are just out of reach? Like you're ready to make big moves, but not sure where to start? If so, you're in the right place. Welcome to the 12 Days of Career Goals, the leading online conference for advancing your career and reaching your career goals in 2025. I'm Teresa White, career clarity expert, 5-time certified career coach, and your host of the 12 Days of Career Goals. We are bringing together 21 of the most respected career growth experts to deliver the actionable steps, insider strategies, and confidence you need to land big wins in your career. From exclusive live sessions and video replays to a Slack community of like-minded professionals and practical resources you can implement right away, this conference is packed with everything you need to turn your career dreams into reality. And the best part? It's completely free if you register by December 13th. So grab your spot and let's dive into the 12 Days of Career Goals. Welcome back to the 12 Days of Career Goals. Today, we're tackling one of the most sought after milestones in every professional journey, landing that big promotion. If you've been putting in the work but still feel like you're spinning your wheels or wondering why your talent isn't getting the spotlight it deserves, this conversation is for you. We're diving into actionable strategies to fast track your career, gain visibility, and finally secure that promotion you've been working so hard for. Whether it's uncovering blind spots, mastering leadership skills, or breaking through barriers, get ready to turn 2025 into your breakthrough year. Today, you'll be hearing from two incredible experts, Tiffany Uman and Sweta Regmi. We're going to start today with a short pre-recorded interview with Tiffany Uman, and then we will have Sweta joining us live. Joining us today is Tiffany Uman, a globally recognized career strategy coach, workplace expert, and 7-figure business owner. She is also a Forbes Coaches Council member and a LinkedIn learning instructor with over 900,000 learners. Prior to starting her business, she grew to be a senior director at L'Oreal, where she achieved 7 promotions in under 10 years. She now empowers mid-stage plus professionals in consumer brands and tech to confidently step into their full potential and unlock higher levels of growth and impact. Her work has been featured in Business Insider, BBC, The Globe and Mail, Medium, ConvertKit, Kajabi, and LA Weekly, and she's been recognized as one of the top 15 LinkedIn experts in Montreal. Tiffany specializes in career acceleration, workplace navigation, confidence, personal branding, communication, conflict management, work-life balance, relationship management, leadership, and more. So excited for you to be here with us today. Welcome, Tiffany.
Thanks so much, Teresa, for having me.
I am so excited to talk with you today about how we can fast track our careers and earn the promotion. And I know this is something that you've done personally as well as coached many, many clients successfully on.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to start with hearing about your take on what are some of the subtle but really important signs that someone's current approach to advancing in their career isn't working. And how can they identify those gaps they might not even realize that they exist?
Yeah. This is such a good question, Teresa. A few things come to mind. When it comes to someone's current approach and why they're not necessarily advancing in the way that they want, or they're not achieving the growth that they want, often what we see is there's this disconnect between what they think matters versus what actually matters. I mean, simply put, that's what it really comes down to. And often we put a lot of emphasis on doing great work, doing hard work, showing the results and letting our work speak for itself. The downfall with that is that that's not what gets you ahead. People make decisions around your advancement and whether you're moving to a next step or not. And so we can't discount the importance of the people component here and having the right support system beyond just doing that work. And that's where there's often the biggest gap. And why I hear often, I feel like I'm doing all the things. I'm working so hard. I'm getting good feedback, yet something's not lining up. And more often than not, it's either due to a lack of that support system with the right people knowing who you are, the impact you create, a lack of a proper personal brand. So you're just over relying on your work. And the third piece is not communicating effectively, both in the day to day and also in how you advocate for yourself or lack thereof. So those are, I would say, some like the three biggest gaps that just continually come up when you're feeling that sense of stagnation.
Thank you for sharing that, Tiffany. And I think it is so important to highlight that doing good work is not enough to advance.
Mm, I know. I wish it was, right?
Yeah. And you just mentioned that you experienced some of that yourself, and your story is just extraordinary. You've gotten 7 promotion in under 10 years.
Yeah.
Are there any specific moments or decisions that you can think back on that made one of those promotions possible? And
Yeah.
what were some of your lessons learned that might be valuable for others?
Mm. Great question, Teresa. There was one really notable moment that I think just like took it over the edge for me in a positive way. So I was actually at an earlier phase in my career at this time, about 2.5 years, 3 years within L'Oreal. And my boss at the time was going on maternity leave, and I was to have a replacement. And the day that that replacement was starting, she quit. And little did I know in that moment that I would be without a boss for about 6+ months. And when I found out that she had resigned, I kind of had two options. I could like freak out and be like, oh, what do I do now? This is really stressful. I don't have a boss. I'm going to be reporting directly into my general manager, who was much more senior than I was, very intimidating of how to approach that relationship. Or I could embrace it and say, you know what? I'm going to take this as a learning opportunity. I'm going to learn as much as I can. I'm going to make myself uncomfortable and I'm going to push myself. And that was the path that I chose. So, that for me, Teresa, was really a compounding effect of everything that I just shared, of realizing the importance of building those relationships, of not just doing the work, but making yourself visible, building that exposure, showcasing your impact, consciously building your brand of how you want to be perceived and communicating really effectively, because so much of it comes down to that.
That is huge. And it would have been so easy to shy away from that and be like, oh no, this sounds very scary. I can't do this. I'm not
Yeah.
experienced enough. But you did the opposite. You were like, okay, this is a huge challenge, but I'm going to lean into this.
Yeah. Yeah, it was scary. It was really scary, and I always see this, right? When you're stepping into a next level of growth, it's going to feel super uncomfortable. Like you're going to feel like, can I even do this? The famous imposter syndrome will kick in and make you feel like you don't even belong there, but you have a choice. And I'm big on taking proactive control of your career. No one else is going to do it for you. And I think what I learned in that moment that was really significant, Teresa, was you're going to surprise yourself like with what you're capable of. And that's why, helping everyone listening to this know that it's possible for you. Like you can absolutely unlock your potential, but you have to be the catalyst in that. Like you have to be the one that bets on yourself, pushes through challenge, sees challenge as opportunity rather than setback, and show up for yourself, because that's what's going to reap the biggest reward.
I believe that so deeply. It really, you can't wait for someone else to do this for you. You're
Mm-mm.
in charge of your career and of your life.
Yeah.
And unless you're willing to step outside your comfort zone and experience change, nothing is going to change.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And it
yeah.
really
That's
takes,
the truth.
yeah, it does take that step outside of the comfort zone and
Yeah.
being uncomfortable to grow.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
want to go back to something a lot of people struggle with or believe in is that putting in hard work. So for anyone who's putting in the work, they work really hard, they do an excellent job,
Yeah.
but they're not seeing the recognition or promotion they deserve.
Mm-hmm.
What are the most impactful changes they could make as they start 2025? What are the first one or two things they can do to shift the narrative in their favor?
Yeah. Okay. Number one, make sure that what you're working on are the right things that favor both your development goals and also the objectives that you're being evaluated against in the business. Okay. You don't want to just be a busy bee doing, output after output after output. You want to do more leveraged work that actually supports you in accelerating your growth, but also feeds into the needs of the business. And so the easiest way to do that is literally have a conversation with your boss is step one, where you say, hey, look, I'm really excited, thinking about what we're going to be accomplishing together going into the new year. I've been reflecting a lot on this past year and where I deem some of my biggest opportunity areas are. And I'd love to further focus on XYZ going into 2025. Not only do I believe that's really important for my development goals, such as X, but it's also going to help me elevate myself in this role to prepare me better for that next step of growth that we've discussed. Do you agree with that approach? Is there anything else that you feel like I should be focusing on or, orienting my energy around to help me with that goal? So like this, you're having a very direct conversation with your manager, reflective of where you've come from in this past month or past months or past year. And you're anchoring that into the new year goals and making sure that there's no gap between where you want to go, point A to point B, and what's going to get you there most effectively. And you can be very explicit about timeline, right? If you're working towards securing a promotion between now and let's say March or now and June, be explicit about that. Let them know that that's a timeline that you want to work towards and that their support in helping to solidify that will be very meaningful for you. And you're at a point of considering, where you should be focusing that time and energy accordingly. So that's step one. I think step two, when we talk about, focusing on the right things, is even doing a bit of an audit of where you've been spending your time. Because often it feels like, well, I'm doing so much, like I'm putting so much out there, but it can also be contrary to the 80-20 rule, right? Like you want what you're working on to make the bigger impact for your goals in the business, as opposed to just spreading you thin. And guaranteed, as you reflect on this and even do like a time audit of a given week or a given month of how you've been allocating your time. And at the end of the day, your executives have goals, right? If it's a publicly traded company, like they've got pressure from the board, they are trickling that down to the teams. And if you can align best with what their vision is and how you play a role in that vision, that's going to go a long way. So try to keep that in mind. I would say the third piece, Teresa, going into next year and just thinking about how to get better approach that progression, make sure you have the right support system. This is your call to action to assess your network internally. Do people know who you are? Who should know who you are? Are you over relying on your boss to speak on your behalf? Are you claiming space in meetings with your leadership team? Are you finding opportunities for exposure and visibility that you haven't had up to now? The more that you get intentional about that, the more that you're able to position yourself for that type of recognition. And I want to be clear here. It's not about tooting your own horn every day and saying, I'm the best, look at me, look at all the things I'm doing. It's about advocating for the impact that you're creating and making sure the right people know about it. I'm going to give one last really quick concrete example on this, Teresa. Let's say your boss has status meetings with your boss's boss. And up to now, they've done that, just the two of them. Well, maybe the 2.0 version of Teresa going into 2025 is going to say, you know what? I want to be part of those meetings a little bit more. I want to ask my boss, can I actually present this on my behalf? Maybe not in every one of those meetings, but maybe once a month, I get to join those status meetings and share specifically what I've done. And that way they can hear it from me. And I'm building that muscle. I'm building that resilience and grit, being in front of leaderships. Long story short there, like go after what you want and make the asks. Don't let others assume things of you. This is your career to take control of. And these facets are really going to help you lead that charge going into next year.
It's incredibly powerful to hear you speaking on this. It's so much more about putting your head down and working hard. It is, some of those things will require stepping outside the comfort zone and might be things people have never done in their careers. But it is worth it. As your story shows, so many of your client stories show that those conversations is what makes the difference of you getting promoted or not.
Yeah. And there really is an art to it. This is a lot of the work that we do with our clients around communication, because it's not just about, okay, I know I have to have a conversation with this leader, or I know I have to show up in those meetings, but it's like, but how do I actually do that? Like, what's the best way to segue into that, right? One of the best tips I like sharing when it comes to this is try to build off something that's very recent for those leaders in their consideration set. So let's say you've had an end of year town hall meeting where your CEO or your C-level team comes up and they're sharing vision for the next year, strategy, direction for the different departments, right? Latch onto that and use that as a segue for follow-ups of how you want to support them in that, or that really stood out to you, or you're excited to be able to bring that back to your department and the work that you're doing. And you can ask follow-up questions and build that interest that shows that you are really genuinely interested in their vision and how you can contribute to that, versus just going rogue, doing your own thing, output after output after output, like a hamster on a hamster wheel, without it really leading anywhere, right? This is how you build your allyship, because your leaders see you as a very valuable asset in the vision they're building.
Thank you, Tiffany. And that visual of getting off the hamster wheel, I think
Yes.
and that's something I think all of us can be guilty of at times. Of we're in the hamster wheel, we're doing, but we need to jump off every now and then and reflect: is that what we're doing getting us to the results that we actually want to get
Yeah.
to?
And here's the really powerful thing, Teresa, because I mean, we work with, clients from, a variety of different challenges in their workplace. And the beauty of it is, like, so much of it is actually in your control. When we have that clarity, it's really allows for that breakthrough. And there's a lot that you can actually navigate and better manage in your workplace, whether you choose to stay there or grow somewhere else, because it's the skills you're going to need either which way. I just want you to have them
Yeah,
wherever you are. I just want you to have them and feel really confident in that.
it's so important. And I'm 100% with you on the clarity. Without being clear about where you want to go, nothing you do really helps, because if you don't
Yeah.
know where you want to go, no
Yeah.
one can support you to get there.
Yeah.
You can't communicate effectively to get there.
Totally.
So it's
Totally.
really the foundation of everything.
Yeah. And you don't want to rely on other people to fill in those gaps for you, right? That's where our own brand and communication and self advocacy is key. Because
Yes.
if there's one way that opportunities are going to fall flat, is if you're building a network, but you're expecting them to tell you where you should go and where you fit and where you're going to bring value. That's on you to express. You need to know yourself and what you bring to the table and be able to package that in a way that shows instant value. And now it's just about connecting the dots so they see the what's in it for them just as much as the what's in it for you.
Yeah. And what you just said is what I see so often, is that we're not taught to take charge of our careers. We often let them happen to us, and
Yeah.
then we
Uh,
fall into roles. Like, there's someone in our leadership team thought, like, oh, this could be a good place for you to move into next. And you're saying yes, and you keep going with just what falls in front of you.
yeah.
And at some point, you're getting to a point where you're like, this is actually not where I want to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That like major aha moment.
And
Yeah.
talking about control, so we're clear on just putting your head down and working hard is not getting you the results you want.
Yeah.
What for you are some of the very common overlooked mindset shifts or skills gap that tend to hold professionals back from advancing to leadership roles? And how can
Mm.
they address those?
I will often say that there's a few. For me, communication is like top of the list. Communication skills, major. But I'd say, even in addition to that, decision making, strategic vision, and critical thinking. So, like, for me, communication's like the big umbrella in terms of really further moving into leadership roles. So much of a leadership role is about inspiring and mobilizing people, not in the day to day execution. And so, in order to do that, you need to be a very effective communicator. You need to be able to rally people together. You need to be able to articulate your vision in a way that's compelling and gets people to buy into it. You need to be able to make decisions, often very quick decisions without a lot of information to go off of, and also inspire decision making in your teams, and so that they feel very much empowered and enabled in what they do. And then critical thinking, right? Be able to make those tough calls and to think of situations from different lenses, different perspectives, and do your due diligence. I will say, beyond that, in terms of some of those key mindset shifts and skills, I'm very big, Teresa, on leading with empathy. It's really one of those powerhouse skills that goes a long way. I pair it often with kindness and, just leading with your heart. People will feel that. But people want to feel heard at all levels, right? And when you actually connect with other departments that you're working with, other leaders that you're working with, and you take the time to really understand what matters to them, what are their challenges, what are their pain points, what's keeping them up at night, and you can act, what are their pain points? What's keeping them up at night? And you can actually support them in that. Well, guess what? Like they're going to be a lot more inclined to help you and your teams versus others who don't really care about that and have never taken the time to ask.
I really appreciate you sharing the emotional intelligence. It's not just the hard skills, they are important, but the skills you touched on, the, the
Soft
soft,
skills, baby. That's where it's
yeah,
at. The more
and
you grow, that's the more important that it becomes. It's much
yeah,
less about the hard skills, much more about the soft skills.
yeah. And to lean into that, I hear so many times from people who are very empathetic and they
Yeah.
feel that this is their downfall and that's a weakness. And
Oh,
shifting that narrative for them and seeing that this is a huge strength and it can help you to lean into that
yeah.
is so powerful.
Agreed. It really is.
And now that we're going into the new year, for anyone who wants to get promoted in 2025, what is your best advice to really make 2025 your breakthrough year and be seen as that promotion ready candidate and finally land the promotion or step into leadership? What's your best
Mhm.
advice for anyone who has that on their vision board for 2025?
Oh, yeah. Get really clear on the gaps that you need to close to get there. What I mean by that is be explicit about your goal, communicate it with the decision makers who need to know what you want, your boss's boss, your HR team, possibly other leaders. Don't leave anything to guesswork. From there, you build a game plan with your boss around where you're at right now, that timeline, and what you specifically need to demonstrate to get there. On top of that, you want to have regular check ins for your career path progression. Do not just rely on performance reviews like mid year reviews or year end reviews. That is far too little. You really want to have quarterly check ins. And maybe as a little pro tip for everyone listening, definitely consider doing perception audits because so much of your readiness to move into that next step of growth is not actually just about you feeling ready. It's about the perceived readiness by those deciding if they think you're ready. And so, what you can do is literally speak with people in your organization. Your boss could be one of them, but I would definitely branch out beyond that in that support system, that cheer squad, as I like to call it, to get a sense of how they perceive you, especially vis a vis the goals that you're trying to target for next year. Do they perceive you in the way that you want to be perceived? And it might be feedback you don't want to hear, but you're better off hearing it and being able to action it than playing the naive card and being like, everything's perfect, everything's great. And then you're like, hey, why did I not get that promotion 6 months into the year? Right?
Mhm.
If there's a decision maker who has influence on that, and they're like, you know what, Teresa, like, you really need to build up more of your strategic thinking. I find that when we talk, it's very tactical, great tactics, but I'm missing the vision from you. And if you want to take on this people manager role in this new department, I need to see more of that from you. Amazing, actionable. I can work with that, right? And so
Yes.
don't be shy to ask for feedback and do these perception checks.
What an incredible advice to take into 2025 is to do these perception checks.
Yeah, feedback is a gift.
Yes.
And the moment that you realize that, it's just breakthrough moments.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yes.
Use it as a gift. Use it as intel. Use it as insight to help you get closer to where you want to go and leverage it and show that you can take action on those points.
Thank you, Tiffany, for sharing such actionable advice and strategy with our listeners today. And where can our listeners find out more about you and connect with you, Tiffany?
Oh, sure. Well, first off, Teresa, thank you for having me. Probably the easiest place is connect with me on LinkedIn if we're not already connected. Follow me over there. Send me a DM. Would love to hear what your biggest takeaways were from this event and this specific session. Additionally, definitely check out my website, www.tiffanyuman.com. You'll be able to book a free clarity call with me and my team there if you're curious to learn a little bit more about what we do and how we can support you. And then additionally, if you're just looking to up level and get some great practical guidance in your inbox every week, I would love for you to join my free Peak Performers newsletter. We publish it every week, twice a week, Monday and Friday, to leave you feeling inspired, ready to take action, and get in the driver's seat of your career to unlock higher levels of growth and impact.
I highly recommend Tiffany's newsletter. Thank
Yeah.
you again for being here with us today and sharing
Oh,
such incredible advice.
of course. Happy to. Thank you for having me, Teresa. And, have the best with the rest of the event as well. There's some great speakers that are lined up here.
Thank you. Joining us now live is Sweta Regmi, the founder and CEO of Teach and Do, a distinguished certified career and resume strategist and a highly sought after speaker. Her work has been featured in over 100 prestigious media outlets such as CBC National, Global National, CNBC, The Wall Street Journal, HuffPost, Fox 26, Daily Mail, amongst others. In 2024, she received the prestigious Outstanding Career Leader Award from Career Professionals of Canada, solidifying her status as an industry pioneer. She dedicates herself to leading ambitious immigrant professionals to six-figure career clarity and limitless promotional opportunities. Welcome, Sweta, to the 12 Days of Career Goals.
Thank you so much. If you can hear me, give me thumbs up. I'm on a new computer right now. Okay, perfect.
We can hear you perfectly, and I am so happy to have this conversation with you here today.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I was just fixing this while I was in backstage. Okay, totally. I'm right here, looking at the camera, looking at all of you.
Perfect. That is perfect. No, we just heard from Tiffany a couple of really solid nuggets of wisdom on getting promoted. And I want to dive deeper into this with you. And I want to pick back up on a topic that she touched on to get your take. And so many professionals feel stuck because they believe their work should speak for itself. What strategies would you recommend for someone who needs to become more visible without feeling like they're boastful or self-promotional? Are there any examples that you can share?
Absolutely. Great question there. So I think I'm going to start with the disclaimer right here. There's no one size fits all. Let's go back to the research phase. I teach a rich strategy where if you want to be rich, let's identify a niche, right? So now the companies that I worked in, these are all award-winning companies. We had process built in for talent pool. So if you want to be visible, you can't go there until you figure out what's the career ladder internally, the talent pool. So for example, I wanted to be a leader someday, and I had to start with the prerequisites, which is what does it look like as a long-term, the goal? What does it look like when it comes to short-term goal? And if I want to be leader in 2 years, I can break my head, but if I've not met the prerequisites that company wants, I'm not going to be leader. I have to hone that skill. So the first step, again, is researching. And the second step is identifying your SWOT, which is your strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat. Who are your competitions? There's a flat hierarchy. If you don't know what that is it's your colleagues out there. It's your competition. So when the next promotion comes in, who is most likely going to be visible? So that's a strategy you're going to have to build in. That's called marketing plan. Before you start being visible, clearly identifying your strength, weaknesses, and maybe upgrading the skills if you need that as a requirement to get a promotion. The third one is company's culture. I mean, we've worked with the companies, and I know some of you are probably working with the companies where the promotions are probably going to the favorites, right? You got to identify the historical data. How are they getting promoted? Is it based on the career ladder? Is it based on networking? Is it based on, smoking buddies and golfing parties, happy hours, right? And when your values do not align with that kind of work politics, do you still want to get promoted? Because the environment's going to be still the same. So you got to really identify who you are. Does it align with your values and moral? Are you going to go and hang out with the people that you don't feel like, I want to be part of nepotism or favoritism? Because there are a lot of companies that are doing that as well. So again, going back to the history and how people are being promoted. And the last thing we're going to touch up a lot, and I'm going to talk about this a lot based on my lived experience, is how are you influencing influencer? And that might not be your boss.
This is so insightful, Sweta. And I love that you brought the SWOT analysis into that, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which we are often taught in business, but we can do that for ourselves. And it's so incredibly impactful. I was wondering, is there a time that you can share with us when you had one of your clients had a breakthrough where they finally understood what was holding them back from getting promoted? And how did they bridge that gap? And what can we learn from their journey?
Absolutely. So recently one thing came up was one of my clients. He was fantastic. He's an introvert and he's such a hard worker. And he's in the field where, it's kind of like year end comes in, then there's no work-life balance. So he thought that, well, you know what, it is what it is. So I'm getting probably a lot of work because it's a year end, it's accounting field, right? So he was okay. And then he was ready to quit because he was thinking, you know what, I'm going to get burnt out. I don't feel like I'm not going ahead with this, right? Mm-hmm. So he was ready to quit. So when he hired me to work through together, here's what we did. I gave him the framework, the exercise on it. What is something that has been added in his plate and he should not be doing it and he's not getting paid for it? So it turned out that his manager who hired him went on a mat leave. And in Canada, mat leave is between 1 year to 18 months. So there is no substitutes or replacement for the manager. So this new manager comes in and kicks in, and then she starts to delegate the role, her things, thinking that that's what he should be doing. And there's a misalignment with the expectations with the bosses, the new boss, and him. He was like, I'm done. I want to go outside, right? So here's what we worked on together. I told him to put all the worksheet, and he was in, finance field. He put everything in there, and I kid you not, it was, he was blown away by how much responsibilities he was assigned. He was not even aware of it. He was not getting paid. So we worked on one-to-one strategy, one-to-one coaching with the managers. We built the plan, which is 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days. So by 30 days, he needs to talk to his manager, showcase the productivity, and he needs to talk about how he needs to either delegate that task to the new hire, which he was part of it. He also took on the leadership role where he's sitting down in an interview, he's hiring people. That was nothing like that when he signed up for the work, right? He was literally being a leader. So we built the case together on how his title needs to be changed. He needs to make more money on it. And there was a data to support it. And then in 60 days, he got promoted 40% more. And he went on from no bonus. Now he got promoted. Title was changed as well. He got stipend bonus as well for that year. And then the rest was the history. The problem was not getting promoted. Problem was he was not advocating for himself again. And he brought the data, put the thought through, and by the time performance review came in, manager already said, okay, you got this, we'll promote you, right? And guess what happened? When he got promoted, he got delegated even more. So he's like, this company, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to take on more and more, and I'm going to go outside. By that time, we already figured out the short term, which is getting that title, getting more money. So when he moves out, the exit plan, he's now going to be on top of the dollar. So then he went out, he quit, and then he made more than 6-figure plus more bonus, and his reporting line is now directly changing to, reporting to executive, right? So sometimes what happens is promotion could be internal for the short term, because when you move out, you already have the exposure and you don't have to fight back. Title does matter. Negotiate it. Anytime when someone quits, someone goes away on a leave of absence, build a case. Either give me the replacement or give me more money or make my title something similar to what I'm doing right now, right? This is really important for promotions.
That's huge, Sweta, that you coached him in advocating and speaking up on behalf of himself for the work he's doing, and got the title he was looking for, got the money he was looking for, and then got promoted outside. Wow, what a success. That wouldn't have happened if he wouldn't have advocated for himself and had those conversations.
And I think it would not have happened, to be honest, if we just talked about it, if I did not assign him the task of productivity chart on Excel and monitoring how long does it take, one by one task, like even to the point I want everyone hearing right now to just define the productivity. If you're going from here to that desk and the file takes 5 minutes to put from one desk to the other one, that's a productivity because people don't see it. This is exactly what the companies are doing when they're measuring the productivity. They will tell you, we need you to give us how much time you spent on things, and you are not thinking the teeny tiny detail, but that matters when you get the promotions, but you have to have a data.
Yeah, and that's huge. Having the data helps so much to advocate for yourself. And that also helps to not have it feel like you're boasting or self-promoting. No, you actually have data showing what you've been doing. And I have another question here for you. In this example or in general, often promotions come down to demonstrating leadership potential. And what do you recommend as an effective way for example, mid-level professionals to showcase leadership skills, even if they don't officially hold a leadership title?
You know what? What kind of leadership is really important as well. Some people are thinking leadership is always about leading a team. First, define what kind of leader you want to be. There are the leaders who are individual contributor who do not want to manage the team at all, but still want to be leader. Is it title? Is it money? Is it work-life balance? And then find out that net promoter score. Which in top companies, what happens is when we talk about NPS score, is basically what they're talking about is would you refer their products or services? And that has to be applied to your personal branding as well, which is literally saying, if the next leadership role comes in, is my net promoter score status yes, green, or red? So when somebody says, there's a leadership potential and there's a talent pool, we're going to be creating it. When your name comes in, is the boss or boss's boss thinking, that person's not ready? And if that's the question of that person is not ready yet, what does it look like to be leader on that particular department in that company? That again comes to the culture research phase, right? Who are the next leader? How are they picking it? Number one thing I did, actionable advice from my leadership days, is if I wanted to become a leader, I wanted to try it out and already prove that I could be leadership ready. So I asked my manager, when I was working in the corporate world and banking sector, we already had a career ladder defined again. So I figured that out where I want to be. So when the new hire kicked in the batches, I said, next time when new hire kicks in, there's a project going on that the next leader would be coaching them, working with them, training them. So I took on the role for more than 5 months to prove it that I'm ready to be a leader. I honed my skills and everything. And I didn't get paid higher for that. I volunteered for it. I got paid, but then again, my thing was exposure, right? And guess what happened? Next time when the opportunity came in, I already proved everything about myself. The data was there. And then I got promoted. So sometimes leadership is all about shadowing, learning, going to the department and letting people know that you're ready. And then people can see it. You have to prove it at that time, because at that time they can't say, well, you can't be the one. You already did it, right? So that's probably a good strategy if your company has that. Try it out, because you never know. If you think leadership is all easy, you might not like it. Grass is always not greener on the other side. And that actually gives you the opportunity to test it out as well. Are you a good fit? Would you like it? Would you like, sometimes people say, I don't like babysitting people. It's not me, right? Sometimes people are like, I love coaching people. I love promoting them, right? So are you one of them? You would only find out when you go and try it out.
I fully agree. And it's so powerful what you said, that when you prove that you can do the work, no one can argue with it. So really looking for those opportunities where you can prove your leadership skills in small ways, in bigger ways, because then when the position open up, as you said, you've already shown that you can do it. Now, I'm really curious on a slightly different topic, since I'm an immigrant myself. I'm from Germany originally. And there's a lot of our listeners here listening in from, I think we have 18 different time zones. So we're all over the world. So this is a really relevant question. And for ambitious immigrant professionals, there can be very unique barriers, cultural perceptions, biases that might hinder advancement. What is one strategy they can use to not just overcome these barriers, but thrive in the pursuit of six-figure promotions?
Right. I am personally immigrant as well. I immigrated to Canada. I immigrated to States for a bit, and then I came to Canada, right? So the funny part as an immigrant, I can speak for myself, is we love hanging out with our kind of people. And there's nothing wrong with it, because we like to get that sense of belonging. And I've seen in the corporate world, when I used to sit in the lunch together, it'd be my kind of people who look like me, who talk like me, people with the accent. English is not my first language. And I would be really hesitant to actually go and talk to people who do not sound like me. That was me before I became a manager, leader in the company. Here's what I changed. I changed the strategy of, I need to hang out with people who do not look like me, who do not sound like me, who's already there where I want to be one day. And that would not be my kind of people. And sometimes you might have to ditch people. And you're not being selfish. You're looking out for yourself again. Learning the different type of environment is the key. Again, understanding, not trying to fit in, right? Immigrants are a cultural ad. Let's put it that way. We are not trying to fit into the box of cultural fit. But in that event, you don't have to compromise your identity. You need to find the right people. Again, the influencer who's already been there. And chances are the influencer could be someone who came in as an immigrant, who climbed up the ladder. Now you're going to go back and ask questions to them, have a coffee chat, informal interviews and stuff like that, to understand how did they get there. And the second one would be people born here in this country, also learn from them. And understanding the hierarchy is really key. And over in different part of the world, the culture is different. I know the countries where you cannot look at people in the eye and talk. It's really completely not normal. Eye contacts are scary, and you're not supposed to look at people's eyes, senior people, right? Here, it's completely different. It's more collaborative. And I used to be so intimidated by title. Oh my God, I never had a balls to go and talk to managers. No, I would never cross that line. That was the mentality I had until I figure out to have a skip level meeting, not to talk about my boss, but let my boss know what am I working on. And that's a must have, because your boss's perceptions is going to transfer to boss's bosses. And guess what? When the promotion comes in, most of the time, bosses already know you from your boss, and that's all perception. Are you perceived differently? Do you have a different perception of yourself as an immigrant versus the boss's boss has a different one? So don't be working with the promotion blockers, which is the boss. And you need to understand whether you're immigrant or you're born in here, you really need to understand and meet the expectation of bosses. Understand the key performance indicator. Again, what matters to you? Are you working on the right key performance indicator? Right? That's what matters. Otherwise, being visible mean nothing. I can be visible in organization all day. I can have a coffee chat and everything. But if you're not meeting the minimum requirement of the current role, your boss is not going to promote you, because your boss is going to have to write the recommendation. I had to do that to promote my people.
100%. And what this really comes down to for me is being incredibly brave. As you were saying, it is the comfort zone for all of us is to surround ourselves with people who are similar to us. We naturally gravitate towards it. So being really brave and surrounding yourself with people that you want to be in contact with and in communication with is a big step out of most people's comfort zones. And I love that you at the same time emphasized, do that without compromising your identity. But surround yourself with people with influence, with people who are where you want to be, because they're the best friends to show you how to get there. And Sweta, you are such an incredible expert when it comes to resume and LinkedIn strategies. So I want to bring this topic in here as well. And there's, as we know, the internet is filled with conflicting advice on resumes and LinkedIn strategies, from the worst to the best advice. But from your perspective, what's a common misconception about crafting a promotion-worthy profile? And what's a powerful tweak or addition that can make a big difference?
So there are two kind of strategies, right? If you're trying to get promoted internally within the company versus if you're trying to quit and have an exit plan to get promoted somewhere else, different kind of strategies, right? So like, first of all, if you are trying to get promoted internally, here's what I did. I mean, I was on social media being a company's ambassador. I was celebrating companies each and every event. I was on the social media tagging the influencer, companies, VPs, CEOs, right? They knew me as a person who is huge in social media, right? So when the promotion came in, they already kind of knew me. And also internally, I'd like to ask people who are watching right now is, does your company have the innovation zone? A lot of companies that I've worked with it is there's a committee where your ideas are heard and the feedbacks are implemented. So we used to have a thing called Orange Spark, where you actually go there and call out the process improvement gap. And then you also provide the solutions. And I was huge on that, right? So I also told my direct reports as well to use that to get you noticed depending on where you want to go. You want to go to project team. If you see something that needs to be implemented, go and vent it out with the solutions. If you just come up with the problem with your bosses, I'm not there to manage your problem. Give me the solution, make me look good. Guess what? Human nature. Bosses are looking after their promotion as well. If you make them look good and if you give them credit, it's a collaborative approach. Hey, boss, here's a problem. Here's the solutions. Do you want to talk to your boss? Can I set up a meeting with both of you? Take that credit as well. And if your boss is a promotion blocker, if they're taking credit as well, don't call them out, but go above, have a skip level meeting and say, well, by the way, I was working on this one. This is the problem. I identified it. And there's the solutions that I actually forwarded to the project team and my bosses as well. I would love your feedback. What you didn't bitch about your boss. What you did was influencers now know that you're part of that too, right? So you need to learn how to not burn the bridges and go over the boss, because boss's boss is going to talk to the boss. Why is this person coming to me? So you got to have strategic move for internal promotions, influencing the influencer. External is quite a different. We're going to be all day here. It's all branding, doing the right thing, knowing the product, knowing the trends, and talking about where you want to go. You want to be fraud analyst, fraud manager. You talk about fraud, what's happening in media, talk about it, tag the company, stuff like that. So much you can do as an influencer on the social media. Doesn't matter wherever you are, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever. If they find you, they need to see you as a thought leader.
100%, I'm with you here. And it really comes down to knowing where you want to go. There's not much help in showing up on LinkedIn or other platforms talking about things, everything in the world. But when you are targeting a specific industry and a specific position in that industry, speaking to them directly, huge. Now, we shared so much advice in today's session. To wrap up, before we go into Q&A, and we've already gotten fantastic questions, that audience, please feel free to drop more questions into the Q&A, into the chat for our Q&A section. For anyone listening in here in this conversation, and they want to commit to one actionable step starting January 2025 to fast track their career, what would you suggest and why?
Absolutely. So going back to the research stage, right? Identifying your short-term goal to get to the long-term goal. You can't just bite the whole elephant at once. If you want to be leader someday, if that's you and you want to be leading team, which team? Do you have a transferable skills? Right? Do you have the skills that company would want it? For example, if you want to be in finance, is CPA one of the requirements? Are you seeing the CPA people are getting promoted? If you want to be in project department, is PMP one of it? Is Six Sigma one of it? Is Black Belt one of it? So you got to really identify who are getting promoted and start planning. And that's a short term. Also asking your manager for support, which is the personal development budget, if they have it. Why does it benefit the company as well? And then that's all about collaboration with your manager and having the real expectations that you understand. Are you working on your expectation or your boss's expectation? If there's a misalignment, I'm a boss, I'm thinking you're not ready and you think you're ready, there's a great misalignment. Don't let that be you. Talk to your boss. Your boss cannot read your mind. Plan the short term. I want to be leader, boss. I've done this, 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 this. I think I'm ready. Tell me why I'm not ready. And if your bosses give you vague feedback, you're not ready, tell me how I can get there. I'll get it done for you. And if bosses says, I need strategic planning from you, what does it look like? Can you give me an example? I'll get that done in 30 days. What does it look like? And recap it with the documentations on a performance review. Performance review is not about running the laundry list of what went wrong. If your boss is doing that, you're working for the wrong boss. Performance review is all about moving forward, setting up a short-term and long-term goal. And if promotion it is, you got to make a case. Boss is not going to watch out for you. You got to watch out for yourself, because his performance review, he's watching for himself. He wants that promotion as well, right? So tell your boss, how can I make you look good? Let's work together. Let's get it done. So if it's a right boss, they are creating leader. They should be creating leader, right? If they're not creating leader, that's not the boss you want to work for. So go out, exit plan, get promoted outside, not internally.
Huge lesson learned here, Sweta. And I love that you're really big on communicating, because as you said, your boss can't read your mind. And I think we so often assume that people in our company or in our life, they know what we're doing and they know where we're working, what we're working towards, because isn't it obvious? It's obvious to us, so it must be obvious to them. But they have their own lives, they have their own work, they're super busy. They might not know what your goals are. They might not even know all the work you're putting in unless you communicate it. Now, we've gotten here some really great question in the chat, and I want to start it off with talking about strategic vision, since you just brought that up as well, Sweta. How do you build skills in and showcase strategic vision?
See, I'm telling you right now, if I'm a boss and if someone tells me you need to build strategic vision, I'd be asking boss, what does it look like? Can you give me an example? I don't know. Strategic vision could be based on the department to department. So I'll give you an example, right? When I'm working in the corporate world, strategic vision for CEO might be completely different, but that trickles down as a vision and goals downwards always. The right company would give vision here, and that trickles down to his manager, his direct report, and by the time it comes down to the lowest button, lowest one, the vision changes. Department has a different vision. So I would ask back again, the question is, what does it look like? I would go back to the boss and say, what does it look like, right? Strategic vision is what? Okay, well, am I meeting quota, sales quota? Is that the vision company wants to? Because I'm going to be adding that vision. Is that part of the vision as well? Be crystal clear on what does it look like. Those are vague feedback. I don't have a clue. What does it look like, right? You need to go back and ask your boss, what does it look like? And I don't have an answer for that. How do you showcase that? Until you know your company, your boss's expectations, and your key performance indicator, because it's all tied up with how your performance are measured on it. So this is how you start with key performance indicator. This is where your performance are being judged. You're promoted based on meeting that expectations. Your net promoter score for the company is tied up as well. So you need to understand this at the rich level. Again, researching, identifying culture and the historical data.
That's big. Having those conversations. And as you said, the strategic vision is going to be different in every team and every company, but it's a fantastic conversation to have, especially as we're going into the new year. It would be a great question for you, set up a one-on-one with your manager and ask, I really want to build my skills in showcasing my strategic vision. Where do you see our team going in this year? Where do you see the company going in this year? And then you can come back with ideas of like, okay, I really thought about that conversation that we had, and I would like to work on A, B, and C to really support that vision. What do you think? And then get on the same page with your manager. Now, the next question we've gotten is, I was given a sort of end of career role at 30, subject matter expert. I'd advocate for a role change to get up the corporate ladder. However, I was told there was no development plans because experts are experts. How should I have challenged that?
Well, okay. To me, it sounds like there's a dead end. You're going to be stuck there. So I feel like, okay, here's the thing. What I would do if I were you is, I'm done. Like, I would ask straight up to the boss, like, where can I go from here, right? Where can I go from here? Is there nothing at all for me? Then you need to go out. you need to absolutely go out. And if you really love the company and the bosses that you're really working towards on it, then you actually go out there and create your own role by partnering with a different department. Maybe the role is not there in that department. Maybe you can build your transferable skills and transfer to the other department. Have you thought about that, right? Just because a role is not there, you're an expert on that department, that does not mean that you cannot move outside that department, but you need to get a buy-in from your boss as well. But if you're told you're done here, you're an expert, there's nothing else, and you feel like you want more, then it's time to revisit it, have an exit plan on it, and negotiate or leave, honestly, because you've been already told there's nothing else. So why sticking there, right?
No, I'm with you, Sweta. And I would also add to that, being very clear about where you want to go, being super clear about the role that you want to get into, and then having a more specific conversation with your manager of like, okay, in whatever your goal is, within 2 years, this is my goal to be at this level and in this role professionally. What do you see as a reasonable progression from where I am now to getting there in 2 years? And again, as Sweta said, if the boss said like that is impossible in this company, you can't, then you have to make the tough call is, do you want to stay there or do you want to move out? And we'll have time for one more question, or maybe even two. So the next question, that's an interesting one. How do you communicate your lack of motivation after getting positive feedback, but not seeing any increase in incentives due to bad timing, M&A, funding, layoffs, or other changes with the company?
Okay, so that's such a great question, right? What I'm hearing from this is, was the lack of motivation due to the money factor? Was it? It sounds like it. Despite the fact that you got amazing reviews, positive feedback, you didn't get an increase in incentive. Were you expecting it? Just because you got the positive feedback, does that mean that everybody gets the incentive? What does it look like? The process look like? When I'm doing the performance review with my staff, the process was identified before. So anyone who actually gets certain score on it, let's say 3.5 or something, they got like a 3% salary increase, right? Was it not communicated? It should have never come in at here. Like, I would love to know, what was the positive feedback? Was it based on performance review? What is the process within the company? And this is where misalignments are happening. Were you told you get positive review, positive score, then you should have gotten the raise, and that's why you're disappointed, or you're expecting it? Is that the norm in the company? Is that the culture in the company? And I could see the layoffs happening. Why would they give you the review, right? And they will just make it smell like you should be grateful you have a job, right? Do you feel that, right? And this is time to revisit it and have exit plan if you cannot get promoted. Remember, no one's holding you there, right? You create your own motivation. If money is the motivations, if they're not giving it to you, go out there and create your own motivations, and that's the exit plan. Promotion does not have to be internal all the time. As a matter of fact, most people who switch every 2 years in a certain sector, they make more money. Do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. If you can't get promoted internally, you have to look out for yourself first. And as you said, Sweta, for me, this should not have came as a surprise. If it comes as a surprise, then going into the next year, if you decide to stay where you are, is having those conversations in the beginning of the year. And you can say, I was disappointed to not have gotten a pay increase last year. I want to make sure this does not happen again this year. And how can I prepare? What are the KPIs I need to meet? Where do you want to see my performance within 3 months, 6 months? Maybe even you could negotiate, can we have a 6 months review of my pay? And what are the KPIs I need to meet for you to consider this? To be very, very explicit. And then again, I would say, to communicate your lack of motivation, I would not communicate it in that way to my manager. I would vent outside of the company. But with your manager, being very clear about, okay, this is what I want in my career, role, tasks, money, and getting their buy-in, how to make it happen. And let's do one more question here. Oh, this one is good. What advice do you have for navigating internal promotions when the process seems ambiguous or based on politics rather than performance?
Oh, wow. I've been there and I talked about it, right?
Yeah.
So again, it just misalignment between the values. And I don't know, I also created like a lot of videos about workplace politics where people have their own, the community of people and they just like to promote one another and they just advocate for one another, right? If you don't want to be part of it, the ball is in your court. Don't be part of it. If you want to be part of it, then do it strategically. And honestly, I participated on the work life, work politics in a different way where I'm hearing everything. I need to know what the projects are coming in for my understanding, and I'm going to go back and work on it and create the case for my bosses where I'm going to say, by the way, I heard that this is coming up in a pipeline. I would love to take on that special project for a couple of months. Can we do that? Right. And you don't have to participate and backstab anybody, but listen. I want every one of you to listen to the water cooler talk, rumors, everything. Zip it. Don't add anything. Work politics, you don't have to play it very hard. Just listening and then working towards your goal. And you do what works for you, and the values are misaligned and you cannot do that. You cannot attend the happy hours, golf, you cannot go and hang out with a certain type of group. The ball is in your court now. So you go there and do it strategically, work it out with the boss as an influencer where you never had to do it, or quit and go somewhere else. If you continue to see the politics that are happening, you're not going to be there, people. Now you are going to be someone who's going to quit and go somewhere else because you're never going to be promoted if the culture is like that. Even if you make six-figure million, doesn't matter. The environment's never going to change. Next promotion comes in, you're not going to be the one. So it's time for you to self-reflect and say, can you work through that journey all your life?
You're absolutely right. And it's a harsh truth. But if it's a company where promotions are made at the golf course, and this is not what you want to be doing or what you want to be part of, it is a decision you have to make for yourself. You know this is the reality. And if this is how the company works, you can't really work around it. There might be one-offs, but for the most part, you're absolutely right. You have to make that tough decision. Do I want to play the game of the company I'm in? Or am I moving to a different company where I feel most aligned?
You can't control work politics. You cannot control the work politics. What you can do is whether you want to participate strategically and surround yourself with people who lift you up. And if you cannot advocate for yourself, you need to be surrounded by those people when they're in the room, when your name comes up, then they are the one who's going to put your name in room full of opportunity. If you don't have those people, you are out of luck.
100%. Sweta, this was fantastic. And we could keep talking here for hours, but we're at the end of the hour. But I want our listeners to learn where they can follow you, learn more about you, learn more from your work, and connect with you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for asking that. So I do have a free class. Whatever I talk to you about today, I teach most of it inside my career promotion program. And I have webinar you can see in the screen as well. And I teach you the framework 4-step, which is whether you're looking for a new job, exit plan. I teach you the rich model there and how do you craft it, the marketing plan, how does that work and everything. So go and sign up and you get the free workbook as well for a limited time just for you today. And it's all yours. And you would know a lot about yourself you didn't even know before. Trust me on it. That's been a feedback. And thank you so much for inviting me, Teresa. It was a pleasure to come back again.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to having you back here a second year in a row. This was absolutely incredible. I can't wait to hear the audience feedback on all the nuggets of wisdoms you shared with us today.
Hey, everybody. Hopefully you get promotions by next year and you got this.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Sweta. I really appreciate you taking the time to joining me here today.
Thanks again. Pleasure is mine.
Wow. What an absolutely incredible session today. We've explored the subtle signs that your career strategy might not be working, impactful shifts, and how to demonstrate leadership potential, whether or not you have the title. Tiffany Uman and Sweta Regmi shared invaluable insights on how to fast-track your career and land the promotion you deserve. And as we discovered in this conversation, it all comes back down to career clarity again. If you want to get promoted, that really important first step is to get crystal clear about which role you want. What is it that you want to be doing on a day-to-day basis in your next role? And then you can craft the actual strategy to reach that goal and communicate that goal with the decision makers in your company or outside of your company. Promotions aren't just about hard work. They're about working strategically, building visibility, and aligning your efforts with your career goals. And as we wrap up, here are your 3 next steps. 1, reflect on today's key lessons. What insights stood out to you? Write them down in your 12 Days of Career Goals guidebook. 2nd, identify one concrete action to implement. Be specific. Is it going to be scheduling a feedback session? Is it going to be updating your LinkedIn profile? Is it going to be practicing how to advocate yourself? Write one action step that you're committing to in your 12 Days of Career Goals guidebook. And last but not least, make sure to join the discussion in our Slack channel. Share your reflections, connect with other ambitious professionals, and get support as you apply what you've learned today. The link to the channel is in your emails. Thank you again for joining us today. A huge thank you to Tiffany and Sweta for sharing their expertise. Be sure to join us again tomorrow for another empowering session on taking control of your career in the corporate world. Here's to 2025 filled with clarity, action, and career.